Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For those of you still...
Dobro nam došli. Vi koji se tek vraćate, molim vas da požurite, da sednete na svoja mesta pa da krenemo dalje.
I hope you all enjoyed your lunch. I certainly did.
Nadam se da ste uživali u ručku. Uvijek me muče deserti. Uvijek se najedem pa se dojedem, dopunim se desertima. Kao vaš prevodilac Nenad sa Sutlijašem. U jednom trenutku postane malo teško.
Okay. Good.
Dobro, idemo dalje sa sljedećom sesijom. Pred sobom imamo jednu fascinantnu diskusiju o inovacijama u proizvodnji, poljoprivredi i digitalizaciji, ali pre toga čućemo perspektivu govornika sa instituta Roland Berger iz Nemačke, David Born. Želim da ga pozovem da se pridruži na bini. David Born, ok. Hvala na ljubaznom predstavljanju. Svima dobar dan. Najgore je ovaj termin odmah posle ručka. Ko će da sluša? Ali probat ću da učinim da bude interesantno. Počinjemo sa misaonim eksperimentom. Zamislite da imate čarobno dugmešce. I kad pritisnete to dugme, obezbedite svetlu budućnost za svoju decu, za unučiće. Da li biste pritisnuli to dugme?
Would, as would anyone else in the world. Regrettably, there is no magic button. But there are things we can do to ensure future prosperity. My goal today is to show why we need to foster innovation to stay competitive and ensure future prosperity. I will structure my argument along 3 steps. First of all, why we need innovation for prosperity. Second, why Europe is losing ground. And third, why and how we need to leverage technology, competition and capital to foster innovation, competition and a good future for ourselves and for our children. Okay, let's start with the first part and have a look at innovation. It seems like everyone is talking about innovation, and this is why. We basically see here on the x-axis a country's capability to innovate. And on the y-axis we see GDP per capita in that country. Technically speaking, you will say that innovative power is strongly correlated with economic output. A trend which, by the way, can also be at a small level observed here in the Western Balkans. In plain English, you would simply say, innovation makes your life better. Better in terms of more education, better healthcare, higher quality of life. How does that work? It works because innovation is the main driver of productivity. Productivity, higher productivity, allows us to produce more with the same input. That might sound technical again, so let's look at an example. Take farming. By mid of last century, one farmer produced enough food for around 10 people. Today, a farmer produces enough food for 140 people. That's productivity growth. And all those people, all those resources that are free now can be put to other use. For example, inventing and building and developing autonomous tractors to further increase productivity in farming. Which brings me to my second argument. When it comes to productivity, Europe is losing ground. Let's have first a look at some absolute numbers. We here see a standard measure of productivity. It's labor productivity. It's the output per hour worked. There are basically three observations which you should keep in mind when looking at that chart. The first one, only Germany and France can somehow compete with the US, who is leading when it comes to productivity. Second, the states in the Western Balkans are a bit far off behind the US, but they are doing some catching up. It will take them quite some time to close the gap, but at least just take Albania, increase productivity by 80% over quite some years. So are things okay with the big economies almost on level with the US and the smaller ones catching up? Not quite. And this is when we take a look at the bigger picture, a longer time frame. We see here until 1995, European companies have been increasing their productivity faster than their counterparts in the US. But since 1995, productivity growth in Europe overall, with all the big economies, is much, much slower than in the US, which means the productivity gap has been widening since almost 30 years, which is a big problem for two reasons. The first one, Europe is becoming less competitive in a world that is becoming more hostile and is erecting more trade barriers. It will be much harder to generate more economic output under these conditions. And second, Europe is aging. Our labor force is shrinking. Raising productivity helps you mitigate that problem. But with our slow productivity growth, we're exacerbating the problem. And what's the reason for that? Why is that gap emerging? The main reason is that European companies fail to reap the full potential and benefit of digital technologies. The European central banks even speaks of Europe's lost IT revolution. And we have lost this revolution for three reasons. First of all, we lack human capital or digital skills. Second, we lack competition. Too few new companies that enter the market and too many old companies who stay in the market. And third, we lack capital to grow new companies that are more productive. The good thing is, there is no reason that these trends must continue as they have for the past 30 years. Because there are things we can and should do to boost productivity, innovation, and growth. How does it work? First, we need more competition by cutting red tape at the local, federal, and European level. Second, we need to boost capital to grow new productive companies, and for that we need a deeper and more unified capital market across Europe. And finally, human capital, digital skills. This is less about politics, but this is about every one of us. Are we in our daily lives making sure to put technology to its best use, to leverage data and software to generate more output with less input? This is the task that lies ahead of us. Remember, there is no magic button. Building a better future is on us. But I'm quite sure that we will be able to succeed. Because if the path ahead of us is clear, what shall stop us? Thanks a lot for your attention.
We have time for a quick question. First of all, I'm very disappointed there isn't a magic button. I was hoping that you were going to come and tell us there was one and tell us what it is, but that's not the case. Productivity is a fascinating concept, and you can trace back productivity numbers all the way to ancient Greece and beyond. But I'm interested in waves of productivity and how the introduction of new technologies can suddenly open the door to a new wave, a new route to increasing productivity. And of course, we are now beyond the cusp of the introduction of artificial intelligence. A decisive moment with the introduction of large language models, not just what they can do now, but where they're headed, and it's all changing so quickly. So what I wanted to ask you is, for a place like Kosovo, the Western Balkans, does digital technology and these new techniques in the digital arena, do they, not a magic button perhaps, but do they offer an opportunity for accelerated catch-up in productivity?
Yes, they definitely do. And there's a clear reason why I'm also rather optimistic that they will be applied. Because you mentioned the long perspective. And if you look back historically, which really improved productivity was when suddenly you had a lack of labor. For example, after the plague, or when England started wars with the French, suddenly they had a lack of workers who could take care of the corn and the grain. And suddenly in those villages where most men were joined the Navy, they were the first to introduce machines to do that. And we are seeing a similar situation in Europe overall and in the Western Balkans. We are seeing a shrinking labor force, and that will put up pressure. And pressure usually is strong motivation to change something. So I'm optimistic.
Excellent. Well, that's great. That's a positive note, I think. David, thank you very much for your intervention. We'd all like to give David a round of applause. Okay, well, with the scene well and truly set, let's move on to our panel discussion on this theme of catalyzing economic growth through innovation. I just have to say, this is a theme that every conference I do these days, this idea of innovation and the role of, in particular, of digital innovation is prominent. And no less so here, but I do think at the stage of development that Kosovo finds itself in, it's a particularly pertinent and interesting question. So I'm really looking forward to this panel. I think we've got the right people here to help us understand the implications here. We have, first of all, I'd like to welcome Luan Dalipi, who's the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister of Kosovo. Luan, you're very welcome. Please come and join us. And then we have Faton Peci, who is the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development in Kosovo. Rosetta Hadari, who is the Minister of Industry, Entrepreneurship and Trade. And I have to admit, I took a wild guess at the pronunciation of your name there. Demosthenes, hang on, let me get this one. Demosthenes Anagnostopoulos, who is the Secretary General for Information Systems, Digital Governance, the Ministry of Digital Governance in Greece. Please come and join us. And Bernhard Ruger, who's a specialist and expert in agriculture and hypochlorite solutions. And if you don't know what hypochlorite is, I expect you will before too long. Come and join us too. Yeah, if you leave that seat open, sorry, Demosthenes Anagnostopoulos is joining us via a connection from Greece, so he'll be on screen. Okay, let's jump straight across to Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Luan Dalipi. Your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. It's a pleasure to be here. For those that don't know me, I come from the private sector in a position of the Chief of Staff. As you may know, a lot of firefighting comes with the position, but what's dear to my heart is private sector development, and I've been 15 plus years in that sector. I like to usually think about all new initiatives and opportunities, test the ideas through some business modeling that we're used to from business school and the private sector as well. And since we have a lot of people from the private sector here. I would like to use a little bit of a comparison as I speak on what my thoughts are about sustainable development. Basically, for any business, there has to be a business opportunity, there has to be opportunity to follow. And in terms of Kosovo and in the whole region, I think if you look at the bird's eye view type, if we have a bird's eye view on geopolitics, we can find out that a few years back, not so long, we had the COVID pandemic, a lot of supply chain disruptions, increase of transportation costs from far Asia. That was one. Then we had the energy crisis caused by the Russian invasion in Ukraine. Now also with the war in Ukraine, we have a lot of multinational corporations who were serving the Europe, Middle East, North African, the MENA region, where Kosovo sits conveniently in the center of this MENA region. Many MNCs were looking to relocate, but of course relocation is not enough nowadays. MNCs look for friendly shoring as well. They look to set up base where countries are friendly and aligned with Western democracy's values. In terms of the geopolitical bird's eye view, if you will, on top of the Western Balkans region, things are looking pretty good. There's opportunity. And we also have a huge deficit in the billions, something that the Western Balkans countries, even if they produced at full scale, they would still not be able to fulfill the demands and the growing needs of the Western Europe. Of course, then we have also a growing older population in Western Europe. No offense, Mr. Ross. And we, Kosovo, are known to have the largest youth, tech-savvy. English is practically an official language in our country. So things are looking good from the bird's-eye perspective. There is opportunity. Next step is vision, aspirations. As a country, we aspire to be the best in Western Balkans in all sectors. And I think the same in business. If you don't aspire to be the best, you cannot plan to become the best. And you don't plan to be the best, you cannot implement or do things that actually make you the best eventually. So for us, as a relatively young country, we, I think, in the last 3 years have shown some remarkable progress in some of the essential conditions that are considered as business enabling environment factors. And Prime Minister mentioned a few of them early this morning, from strengthening democracy to rule of law, fighting crime, corruption, as well as overall liberties in all aspects of life. And this we don't say as a government, it would be a bit subjective, but it's what the international indexes are saying. We are #1 in terms of progress in these areas in the Western Balkans region. And it's a good omen to attracting new FDI and increase in exports, because any business, foreign, national, or whatever, there needs to be the element of trust, that there is predictability in policies, in implementation mechanisms, in the people they need to deal with, civil servants who process various licenses and permits for whatever sector in which they're interested to invest in. So all of these little bits and pieces make up the full story, and I think Kosovo is on a very right path to really becoming very competitive as a country. Also, in addition, we have a very healthy and strong, well-integrated diaspora. What used to be a bad situation in the 80s and 90s has turned out to be a blessing nowadays, with all of our diaspora being very well integrated into the corporations and other decision-making mechanisms throughout Europe, US, and mostly Europe and US. Besides having the opportunity and doing some things right, like the democracy and rule of law, then we really have to dive into business, and we have to show how we're doing as Kosovo in terms of real concrete factors that determine the decision of a prospective investor. And I think in this area also, we ranked #1 in terms of lowest tax burden. Our corporate tax is only 10%. We have 0 tax on dividends and up to only 10% progressive tax on personal income taxes. So overall, the GDP growth average for the last 8 years has been the fastest and biggest in this Western Balkans region. As also Prime Minister mentioned, 6.2 average over the last 3 years. And we also have some of the public infrastructural needs that the other countries in the region perhaps have surpassed even over a decade ago. We have 7 billion euros in new investment needs. In transport, about 3 billion, roads, railways, tunnels. In environment, water supply, water dams, wastewater, waste management. You cannot make small mistakes in water dams. Therefore, we would really appreciate the interest of successful, credible Western European and other Western democracies overall companies who are specialized in these types of large infrastructural projects. And together with IFIs, EBRD, IFC, KfW, and others, we plan to, of course, co-fund and co-implement those. And then we also have the energy, which was also mentioned. Besides the refurbishment of the old coal power plants, we have about 1.2 gigawatts of renewables we need to invest by 2030. So overall, public infrastructural-wise, Kosovo is very interesting country right now. Then we dive into private sectors, and there are 3 major groups of, if you will, sectors for private business. First and foremost, IT-enabled services, from software development to digital accounting, digital marketing, again, relating back to the largest youth, professional, tech-savvy. We already are showing quite big dynamic development of this sector in Kosovo. Next would be manufacturing, especially wood, furniture, metal processing. And third but not least important is agriculture, food and beverage processing. So there, as I said, there are billions of euros of trade deficit that we can fulfill in just Western Europe market. But of course, innovation being the theme of this discussion is a rather big word, and I think for our context, innovating means also a production company implementing an enterprise resource planning tool, which would enable more efficient, fast, and more productive decision making of what types of supplies to, what types of inputs, where to get the supplies, and where to export faster and better. So overall increased productivity. I think we need innovation in our in public institutions as well, because again, we have to treat the private prospective investors that come in with a lot of diligence and ensure that their time is being taken care of and is respected. And here we talk about concrete processes and steps that civil servants need to take to make sure that prospective investors don't wait too long in the queue, because they have other countries in the region who are highly competitive as well. I will stop here, and then we can perhaps further discuss in the Q&A. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's move along to our ministers, and first at Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development, Faton Peçi, your thoughts, please.
Thanks a lot, sir. Dear participant, dear Minister Haidari, Sir Luan. all of you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Thank you for invitation and unique opportunity to be in here today, and for me it's a real pleasure to address in such important event, reflecting the raising and goals toward the new important event, reflecting the raising our goals toward new opportunity of cooperation that leads the economic environment. We are living in the condition, in the time, that being, for example, in the field, in the agriculture sector, despite in the private or the institution, is the most difficult time, taking consider that effect that have had pandemic COVID-19, the period of the pandemic, after that the impact that have the crisis in the energy, and recently the aggression of Russia and the Ukraine. This makes many difficulties, especially, for example, for the inputs of that the farmer and the producer have in the agriculture sector. Despite them, we as a government, we have made many reform and measures that improve all the indicators regarding the productivity, because the previous presentation was very impressive and interesting, where we speak for productivity. So despite those many challenges that we faced during this period, we arrived, for example, to increase the productivity in our country in agriculture sector. Since I became a minister, we have arrived to increase for more than 94% the export of goods and products of agriculture sector, and most of them are, or around 60% of them are dedicated for the CEFTA countries, because we are speaking in this conference for the needs for cooperation, for much more cooperation between the Western Balkan country. Another issue that is important to emphasize is that as the Luan present, the agriculture is one of the three main pillars of sector for economic development in our country. The agriculture sector contributes around from 8 to 10% of GDP, and as that figure out that could reach up to 15% of the food industry sector, that also is considering. With the territory around, our territory around 40% is covering by high quality of agriculture land, and on other hand with the forest, and it's a great and incredible opportunity to develop our country. And despite we have increasing a lot the planting of our lands, still it's many issues to do in order to address our achievement that we have, because I'm speaking because in this perspective, because we still have an arable land that is not used in the agriculture sector, and for that is very important also, despite the investing in the human resource, also in the technology, for what we are working hard in this direction. For another indicator that is very important to present here is that on the last 3 years is around 27% are increase in the the participation of population in the agriculture sector, and we have increased in the planting of for all the crops. For example, if we speak for the cereals, we have increasing for more than 60% last year the percentage of the planting of area and in working in our lands. Together with the Western Balkan country, we have demonstrated that our cooperation is a path to significant achievement, and the trade balance of the agriculture sector is the best example that we can present here. Regarding it is essential that we continue extending our trade horizon and strengthen our production capacity, as all the Western Balkan countries are striving to join the European Union and have significant agreement for sustainable association. This offers the excellent opportunity for us to enhance our competitive capacities in market of over 500 million people, where we can now freely export without custom duties. We must focus on eliminating any barriers that hinder the growth of the regional cooperation, often manifesting in the challenges like unrecognized documents and goods at border, or unfair competitive politics against products moving from one country to others. In this case, I'm speaking for the products that go from our country to our neighbors, Serbia. Nowadays, as regional cooperation in the Western Balkans becomes more important, the working group as Regional Rural Development, SVG, it's playing an important role in driving the projects and initiatives to strengthen the economy of the country, of the region. However, we must clearly state that there are some political banalities. For example, we as a Kosovar cannot travel across at all Western Balkan countries, but when it's come to the traveling, for example, to the Bosnian Herzegovina, we must overgo through many bureaucratic procedures and banal obstacles, because we need as a citizen, as a private sector, to obtain a visa. That it's a paradox, and that's a damage way of cooperation to the country in our region. Kosovo actively uphold its commitment to the CEFTA and advocate for global initiatives like the Agenda 2030 for ending world hunger. It's prioritized fair trade practices, and until recently have a visa regime despite adhering of fair play. However, Kosovo faces challenges of our neighbors, in this case Serbia, and determine our products and restrict anything that's writing made in Kosovo from entering their markets, indicators ongoing tension and obstacles. Kosovo stands as a region and even broader example of increasing support for farmers through financial aid. We have two main projects, that is direct payment and grant is for the farmer, and we are supporting a lot because we have increasing the support for the farmer into last 3 years up to 216% for the sector. We have advancing our policy, we have drafting the strategy, we have approving an action plan. We have, after a period for more than 9 years that the previous government did not pass it, the laws, we have working hard in advancing the legislation that is very important. And at the same time, we have very good cooperation with international interlocutors and organizations. Just for example, last year, we arrived, for example, to sign a memorandum of understanding and to gain more than 26 million euro supporting for agriculture sector. That is a significant step toward our economy. When we talk about challenges, food security and action to mitigate climate change, and among the top priority of the ministry I led, we ensure that food quality and safety, we are drafting the law of organic agriculture and have developed the law for organizing the agricultural products markets. Regarding the digitalization, now we are in a process of drafting a new strategy for digitalization in the farming together with UNDP, and I'm optimistic that until the end of this year we will have a strategy for this. So I'm aware that the time is running, so I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Let's move along to Rosetta Haidari. Do please correct my pronunciation. Eventually I'll learn. Minister of Industry, Entrepreneurship and Trade here in Kosovo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ross, country's editor for The Economist. Dear Minister Peci, deputy ministers present here from Ministry of Industry, Entrepreneurship and Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development. Dear Mr. Bernard Roger, advisor for more than 20 years and coming here to contribute. Mr. Dalipi, Chief of Staff of Prime Minister's Office, and more present here from private sector, from institutions, but also Mr. David Bourne, Director of the Berger Institute. Greetings and interesting to hear your presentations, even though Kosovo was missing, but hope next year we see Kosovo in the map. It is an honor to be here to present the country's vision for industrial development through innovation, through technology. Therefore, Kosovo's economic growth relies on creativity, on technology and sustainability shaping the economy for all. The vision reflects Kosovo's aim to foster innovation, utilize digital advancement, and achieve sustainability in line with EU industrial strategy, all in line with EU DG growth department. Industrial policy is regaining importance in the industrialized world to facilitate transition to a green, digital, and innovative economy, as well as to strengthen development of industrial sectors. And there are many in Kosovo, especially processing sectors that did not play enough the key role to unfold their potential to be the main driver for social, economic, and environment perspective, but through industry policy now we are supporting them to further grow as rising stars they are growing nowadays. Therefore, catalyzing economic growth through innovation in the manufacturing industry, we are working on different dimensions, different perspectives, such as starting with addressing various aspects of technology adoption, skills development, infrastructure improvement, and fostering a favorable business environment. So far, through the mandate of our ministry, we moved with 20 laws and 40 sub-laws, all in line with EU acquis directives and ensuring more sustainability, but also securing investments in line with global principles, OECD, EU regulations, and more. Innovation and technology development are the heart of industrial development that constantly brings new products and improved production processes, translating into higher value addition. Therefore, the manufacturing sector has the potential to make a tremendous contribution to the creation of an innovative and digital economy in Kosovo. Also, at the same time, it is the most important consumer of material inputs, processing them into final goods, and rather aiming to process them into value-added products for the global value chain. Industrial policy is dedicated to activating, therefore, the potential of industries to advance the goal of having a more digital, circular, green, and competitive economy. And to achieve this, our industrial policy that we approved last year is the first strategy since after the war that was approved from our government. It aims to increase the percentage of local inputs in production, because we are rich in raw materials of metal, non-metal, minerals, forestry, agriculture, and also to improve product innovation towards higher added value production and strengthen links with local industry-related service sectors or providers. Digitization and product innovation towards higher value-added product is key to the growth of the industrial sector, as new products will help expand exports and increase competitiveness. Also, green, environmentally friendly products, which tend to have higher added value, which can lead to the local benefits. The main actions, therefore, of our industry policy include the provision of fiscal and financial incentives, as well as the recognition of manufacturers to engage in digitization and innovation, including the support of collaborative platforms for product innovation involving businesses, academia, and public sectors, in many ways with also Ministry of Education, Science, Technology. Also, the improvement of national legislation that I just mentioned. In addition, we are working now to green production, and not only, for adoption of the EU taxonomy, for inclusion of relevant green public procurement, criteria for certain products categories in local procurement legislation, for creation of specialized industrial parks and equipped with environmentally friendly infrastructure, already working with certified 11 industry parks, but also on technological parks with the capital investments of the government. And more, these parks will contribute to environment-friendly infrastructure for the production of carbon-neutral products. Green parks in different areas are just starting to be established because we had more on physical infrastructure building, but now we need to introduce more environment characteristics to also existing built parks. We are working also on providing grants for the creation of digital innovation centers to support manufacturing companies through providing opportunities for experimentation with new technologies, incubation, and other programs, expanding as well the export financing instrument with the Kosovo Credit Guarantee Fund to provide additional financing solutions, which are all aiming to export-oriented manufacturing companies, and there is a lot of good results showing already through this instrument. While through the existing draft finalized law for innovation entrepreneurship, we are setting up the innovation fund that will create a window for supporting investments in companies to accelerate the growth of regional innovation, as well as promotion of industrial symbiosis to facilitate the exchange of materials or waste. By implementing these measures, but also more measures in common regional program and also in a growth plan, we are embracing the vision of European integration processes in Kosovo to come faster, but also the economy to develop and unfold its potential, but transform faster to be included in value in the value chain and offer decent jobs for youth of Kosovo, the most valuable resource for economic development. And I am sure by implementing these strategies in a coordinated manner, the Balkan region can untap its potential and gain more values to go faster to EU integration, but also promote economic growth, job creation, and sustainable development for all. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, well, we're going to stick with the theme of government policy, but we're going to swap countries. And we have, or I hope we have, Demosthenes Anagnostopoulos, Secretary General for Information Systems and Digital Governance from the Ministry of Digital Governance in Greece, should be joining us online. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Excellent. That's always good to hear a voice over the airwaves. Please go ahead and give us your thoughts from the Greek perspective, but also your regional view on this area, catalyzing economic growth through innovation.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to discuss what we have accomplished in the past few years. It's really very nice to say that Greece has had a tremendous uptake of digital governance in the past 5 years, and I would very much like to share with you our 5 or 6 basic principles and decisions, strategic decisions, on which we based this accomplishment. First, we launched a unified portal for all government services, either they are directed to citizens or businesses. We launched GovGR, which is more or less like GovUK, and we moved from 500 digital services offered through this portal to more than 1,700 services offered for citizens and businesses. This is the way that we provide a unified experience that is a common look and feel for all services, so that when somebody knows how to use a new service, then perhaps he or she can use another one as well. Second, we used the common authentication mechanisms for all our services and systems. This may seem kind of easy to understand, but actually this is not the case. In many countries, citizens face problems because they have to remember different usernames and passwords for the various familiar systems of the government. And what we've done is that we used a single authentication mechanism for all new services, an old one as well. More or less, we use authentication of banks, that is authentication provided through web banking, because we needed more secure services, and web banking environments provide us with such capabilities. So we had both a common authentication mechanism based on TaxNet, that is the taxation credentials that we had for our country, and second, we extended these capabilities to use also web banking credentials for our services, especially the ones that are more need of security, of more security. Third, we enforced interoperability. We launched a new central interoperability center for the government, where all documents and certificates don't need to be transferred from one public body to another, as this is accomplished through interoperability. First, we move only data, we don't move documents or certificates. And second, and most important, we don't enable the different government authorities and public bodies to just be the owner of their data. We're able, as Minister of Digital Governance, not only to enable, but to enforce interoperability through issuing ministerial decisions saying that this system has to interoperate with another one, so that we need to provide a more composite service, a new service for a citizen or the business. So we don't let them have silos as ministry or public bodies, as ministries or public bodies. Ministry of Digital Governance is the only ministry which is responsible for enforcing interoperability, and also in the case that they don't want to interoperate with other public bodies. This is of crucial importance to our understanding, because in the past years, not only in our country but in other countries as well, you had public bodies who just didn't want to interoperate and exchange data with other public bodies. Having a single interoperability center and a mechanism for issuing ministerial decisions that enforce interoperability is a key to promoting digital governance in our country. Third, interoperability. Fourth is that we have a cloud-first policy, which is, I think, our basic policy for hosting and providing such services through since 2020. So in the past 4 years, all systems are hosted and get serviced through common data centers of the government, through our government cloud, and have embraced what the EU says, that is a hybrid and multi-cloud approach. In this way, we have both on-prem infrastructure, that is, we have our own data centers, which are local here, and also we use public cloud infrastructure and capabilities for other systems. That is the hybrid cloud. And concerning the multi-cloud approach, we get the best of our contractors, which is manufacturers. So we have specific features that we want to take from Microsoft, Azure, or Oracle, or Amazon, or Cloud, or Google Cloud. That is what we do to be multi-cloud. So these are 4 principles that we based our strategy and had considerable gains in our digital governance efforts. To be very precise, we moved from 50 million transactions which were offered to citizens back in 2019 to more than 1.45, almost 1.5 billion transactions offered to citizens and businesses in 2023. So this is a tremendous uptake of digital governance. Of course, we had a different way to include some financial transactions in these last few years, but the growth is exponential, as you may understand. Apart from that, our strategy was based also on having enterprise agreements with manufacturers such as Microsoft and Oracle to have coverage of all public sector needs, or not only all needs, but at least the ones that were of utmost importance. And that includes not only office automation tools, but also databases, etc., and the middleware, etc. That is for systems that are present at each public body, at different information systems that had to be maintained, had to be contracts had to be supported and continuously taken care of. And in this way, we achieved to have a common knowledge and a common way of supporting these contracts and being up to date with all relevant updates and bug fixing, etc. So we also escaped from the concept of illegal software or software that was outdated. This way, we had better prices and covered the whole public sector in the best of our abilities. Except from that, we launched a national wallet which has all important documents of a citizen within, such as digital identity, driver's license, and a number of other cards, such as cards for people which are have disabilities. And in this way, all our important documents can be stored in our digital wallet, the national wallet, and can be checked for validity through a very concise mechanism from the authority which is responsible for checking the validity of this document, of these documents, either policemen or any other auditors that need to check their validity. This national wallet can be used for mobility within our country, both for traveling via airplanes or boats, etc., but cannot be so far used for mobility abroad. And this is a very important concept because, as you know, the European Union now builds its own European wallet, which will be released in 2025 or 2026. And this wallet will give you the opportunity for cross-border mobility, and not only that, also for accessing both public and private sector services in a unified way. So it will give you the opportunity to authenticate yourself and get access to services such as web banking, or renting a car, or renting a bicycle, or paying your taxes through using this technology, this application in your smartphone. Last, concerning AI, we understand that this is the future, that we need to have a very much consideration on balance between innovation and protecting the citizens' personal data. In our country, we launched AI assistant for GovGR, that is the government portal for all citizens and businesses. And in the last 3 months, we got more than 700,000 sessions and questions posed by citizens to the AI assistant for supporting their interaction with the government, find how to get service from the government and how they can use digital services and do it in the best possible way. We also plan to further expand AI tools and applications in other areas and sectors, but you know that the issues concerning regulation and comply with both national and European legislation is a very important issue when building applications, AI applications that influence somehow citizens' rights, and we're very kind of caring about that. To my understanding, cross-border mobility and collaboration between all countries in the EU and especially in our area is of much importance to promote not only data exchange and building services, but also promote the cooperation between people, between businesses, so that we have a multiplied effect in this area. I think that there are common issues that we need to respect concerning regulation and common principles and standards that if we somehow adopt, then both mobility in terms of physical mobility and virtual mobility in terms of getting access to services and data will be of much influence, of much importance and effect for our citizens and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for that. Innovation comes in many forms. Sometimes it's a brainwave idea out of the blue into a greenfield area where there's no opposition and everybody's just blown away by the creativity and potential of an idea. Sometimes ideas aren't necessarily new. They're an adaptation of something that's reasonably well known and has been around for a long time, but the problem comes in overcoming resistance from an entrenched way of looking at things. So I'm really pleased that we have with us Bernhard Rugard, Agriculture and Hypochlorite Solutions expert, who's going to talk to us a bit about a pretty specialized application of innovation. Bernhard, over to you.
Thank you. I prefer to stand up because I have the same problem as Mr. Ross, too many desserts, and it's easier for me to talk standing up. If I could have the presentation. Disinfection. Disinfection is something most people don't think about. If you think about chlorine, most people know. If I talk about hypochlorite, most people don't know. Chlorine is poisonous, is explosive, and it's not really good for the human body. Hypochlorite is just made out of salt, water, and electricity, a green product, and is almost everywhere we can find something about disinfection. We are a family-driven, family-owned company in the 4th generation who are producing hypochlorite in Germany, and we spent our time for the last 3 or 4 years to getting all the European Union standards. Not only having an idea is important, also getting it street legal. So this is what we did most of the time. And it's not only water disinfection. These are just a few of the EU standards we had to fulfill, because it's a fungicide. It's a, in most areas you can use it, and it has a very brief time what you need to get everything clean. And again, this is something we had to do the last years. The different hazard classes, and what right now is the most important thing after Corona, it's just the hand and surface disinfection. So you have a liquid which is like water, smells a bit like chlorine, but at the end, within seconds, every hand, every surface is really germ-free, virus-free. It has no alcohol, because the EU is thinking about to forbid the standards for alcohol in disinfection. It's reliable, and whenever you, for example, disinfect the car, it also takes the odors away. It's strong, it's easy to handle, and it has no, you don't have any problem with it with other standards. almost everybody was at the dentist. Whenever you had a tooth pulled out, the dentist put hypochlorite into the root canal to disinfect also the root canal. So the human body is producing itself hypochlorite. It's a product which is sort of green in the best way. It's used at vegetarians and also in most of our businesses, the drinking water business. You only need a few drops to make clean water, to make it free of legionella, and not only the water is clean, also the piping where the water is flowing into, because normally you have a biofilm in the water, in the piping, and this is what we avoid. But now coming to agriculture, for example, in a dairy, you have fat, you have sugar, you have many substances which are really hard to handle. You just take our product at the right dosage, and the problems within the dairy are history, especially if you think about cows in the agriculture. Cows are drinking up to 150 liters of water per day, which most people don't know. If they have clean water, the milk is much better. Better milk you can sell for a higher price. And this is, at the end, better for the environment and for the humans. Farming, the University of Munich found out that if you grow chicken, in Germany it's a 32-day period, they have 7% more weight, they don't need pharmaceuticals, they are just healthier because they get fresh water, better water, and the pollution is not coming from the water system, it's coming from the drink nipples growing into the piping, which we are keeping clean. We have tons of customers in Germany, we are working worldwide. Like I said, it's a green product. Salt, water, and electricity is in almost every country, and therefore would be happy to come to Kosovo, to this area also, to do something what we can do best. Simple things are mostly the better things, and it couldn't be more simple than what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please come and join us, take a seat. Okay, well, after all that, there's still some time for questions. I'm going to focus on one area, and I'm going to put this to the Chief of Staff and to our two ministers. Some people feel that innovation requires a powerful government role, a leadership role in terms of moonshot projects, in terms of regulation, in terms of funding. Some people think the government should just get out of the way and let the private sector get on with it. Presumably, the right answer is a balance somewhere in between. So I'm just interested in your view where that balance lies. Is it different in Kosovo from in other places because of the circumstances of the country?
Yes, you reminded me of the old famous saying, ask not what the country can do for you, and you know the rest. I think, yes, that's a very good question. Kosovo's context is such that it has a relatively small production base to begin with. We import over 90% of what we consume, so even if we are highly innovative in what we have, increasing from a unit 2, let's say, for 300%, that's still, at the end of the day, is not as competitive. We need to change the paradigm altogether. And the changing of the paradigm comes from the FDI, or export-oriented FDI, meaning projecting Kosovo and it is already actually turning itself into a hub for business process outsourcing for the EMENA region that I mentioned earlier, Europe, Middle East, North Africa. Now, where's the thin middle line that divides government's intervention with what the private sector needs to do on its own? I am a believer actually that in normal circumstances, government should step aside, because it's difficult to compete with the creativity of so many businesses we have, tens of thousands of businesses, just the same as it is us trying to compete as a government with the population, the citizens. We have 1.6 to 1.8. We'll see what exactly where we are, because the population census was just completed, but we haven't gotten the final data yet. But anyways, the creativity of the private sector is really abundant. Private sector always finds a way to maintain its competitiveness. And in my previous work, I remember, for example, I did market entry plan for customized kitchens for a Kosovar producer for the Swiss market. The innovation that the company did itself in technology, in processes, made them competitive and actually successful even now internationally. So I think having small numbers, relatively speaking, of these types of businesses calls for some engagement by the government, just sort of like a snowball effect. Get the ball rolling, create an innovation fund, get some funding out, get technical assistance and expertise to these businesses to help them with business plans and etc. And then the rest they will pick up themselves. So I think from 1 to 10, maybe in percentage-wise, government support 20%, 80% will be done by the private sector.
God, I love percentages. Fantastic. Okay, let's move along. Mr. Pecci, your thoughts, please, on this balance between where the government needs to be involved in taking the lead, facilitating innovation, and where the private sector needs to be left alone and allowed to get on with it.
Of course, from my point of view, that the institution have a key role regarding the orientation of the economy in every society. And where I speak for the key role, I have in mind that based on the resources that institutions have, I mean in the expertise, we can give support, I mean by the offering legislation, preparing the policy, the strategy, and after that supporting by the in different initiatives. But in this case, as Luan said, it's very important that not just everything to expect from the institution by the government, because sometimes the private sector tell much more, if I could say, efficiency in the in different projects or idea or something like that. But I will give an example regarding the agriculture sector. Where I became a minister, I saw, for example, the balance of the trade in the market of agriculture products. And I saw, for example, that vegetables are the highest percentage of imports that came from around the country and beyond. And after that, I make a totally different scheme of the support for the farmer in this sector in vegetables. And now if you see the different 3 years of that we are in the government, so we can see that the products that have increased in a lot of the export, not just the productivity in our country, is the vegetables. So this is the role that could the state play in the different circumstances, but on the same time, the way how designed the priority is very important. So to end those view regarding the rule that have a state, of course, that have a crucial, but of course that needs also incentive from the private sector, and for that is very important how to raise also awareness and information regarding the perspective that have each of the sector.
Great. No percentages, but a good answer. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Minister Hajdari. You're the Minister of Entrepreneurship, which sort of suggests you feel that the government has a role, at least in this area of entrepreneurship and innovation. But your views, please, on this question.
Yes, our ministry has a mandate to further develop innovation and entrepreneurship. And in this perspective, our ministry, in addition to policy, to the law for innovation, entrepreneurship, is investing in incubators, industry centers, technology centers, and business incubators to industry parks, but also to universities. The reason why to universities is to develop faster the research, development, and innovation system together with Ministry of Education, Science, Technology, where they are investing to science innovation, and we are investing to entrepreneurship innovation. Youth of Kosovo with high potential of intelligence, just taking the report of OECD SME Policy Index, the chapter of Kosovo mentions 40 times the word intelligence. This is the message for government to focus more on offering space for youth, supporting them with grants and also with collaboration in different parks and spaces that we are creating for them. But it is also a call of government to private companies to bring the collaboration and business linkages closer to each other, and the small, medium enterprises supporting more on startups and investing on startups, because it is their return, and this is how the ecosystem of innovation can be further developed. The government has its key role to legislation, to financial instruments, to providing space, but it is a lot depending on collaboration between private sector, academia, and governance. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. Well, I want to give an opportunity to Bernhard to come in on this. I mean, you're coming in from outside government, and what's on the basis of what you've heard, but also just your own experience, what's your view here? What is the role that you would like to see governments play? How could they help you?
Like the minister was mentioning crops before. We treated crops, and we found out that crops are more stress resistant and heat resistant. We just provide our product because everybody needs to make his own experiences. If you have the right university or laboratory, we do everything to help you, because crops right now with this temperature are really stressed. And we found out in Kaina, in Germany, that we have, at least if you just rinse the seeds, about 20 to 25% more production out of the same seeds, because the roots are almost triple as long as before. They get more water, and the heat resistance is growing up. So what we like to do is to provide our knowledge and to provide product, that you have the right universities, the right places to find out, to get experience for yourself, and learn together what we can do for a better future.
Excellent. Well, we are just about out of time. I will hand over I see you're there, Secretary General, so I'm going to hand over to you and give you an opportunity to respond to this question too, the appropriate role of government in fostering innovation in your country. How do you see it?
As a matter of principle, I agree with what the previous speakers have said. To my understanding, in our country as well, in my country as well, we need to further enhance cooperation between industry and universities, and furthermore, to focus our research on more product-like results. So we need to further cooperate with our partners in the European Union, and I think that Greek businesses and the universities have a very good results in terms of research achievements in the European research projects. But actually what we're more interested in having results which are also oriented towards products. So enabling AI technologies and algorithms to be further evaluated and produced in our country, I think it's also an issue of great concern. And that's why we have different infrastructure which we need to be provided so that these algorithms can be tested. And that's why we built a supercomputer in our ministry for giving such capabilities to universities and research entities. We still need to investigate the use of other technology software components from manufacturers in this research, and how we can interoperate between AI products of different manufacturers and the ones that we build on site. This is of much importance in order to combine different models and have the opportunity to evaluate the algorithms. And in any case, we have another, let's say, group of research proposals that and frameworks that are open for proposals and ideas that can be presented and evaluated and funded either for startups or even mature research entities. That's what I have to say. I think that the issue of the appropriate.
Okay. We're out of time. I mean, I've got many more questions for each of you, but I don't have any time to ask them. So I think all that's left for us to do is to thank you for your intervention in this panel. Thanks very much. Okay, moving on. We're now coming to our final session, and the theme of innovation, the role of the private sector, the particular conditions we spoke about earlier on in an earlier session here in Kosovo, that you have such a large and strong youth sector here. You don't face the kind of demographic challenge that some other countries face, but you have a different kind of challenge, which is many of you younger people leave the country to seek opportunity, to seek education. But not everybody, and you have some great innovative startups here in the country, and I hope over the years you'll have many more and a lot of success in that area. But to help us understand how you innovate and succeed in Kosovo, we have a fantastic panel to finish things off today, and I'm delighted to welcome up onto the stage our two panelists. The first is Shpend Ahmeti, who is the managing partner at Data 4X. And we also have Tony Balasic, who is the CEO at Panvita, former chairman of the board of directors at Mercator, former CEO at Fructal. Please come and join us. Take a seat. Thank you. Mr. Ahmeti, take us away.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, my name is Shpanda Ahmeti. Most of you know me. Together with our team, we have developed a market intelligence platform called Data for X, Data for Anything. And it's just the first step in trying to make sense of data and giving a story behind every data. Most of you from the private sector, but also from the public sector, are struggling to get quality data in one place. And this is what we have built over the last 2 years. And now we will just showcase a bit of it, while throughout the day we have had the opportunity to present the live demo of our platform just at the entrance of this conference. Okay, so one of the things that we have done is we have built a data model for the prediction or forecasting, and up to now our confidence level is 97%. We have trained our data last year, and with predictivity of 97 to 98%, we have closed 2023 around revenues of key industries. And this is what we forecast also for this coming year, for 2024. Of course, the largest industry is trade, and we foresee that it will be around 11 billion euros. Then manufacturing will have an increase of 30% with 3 billion, and this is a great thing, because over the last 3 years, over the last 5 years, to be more precise, the manufacturing industry has doubled in Kosovo. Then we move in construction. With the data that we have, this is the first year that construction industry has seen a decrease in revenue of 5%. And this will follow throughout the year, mainly because of the confidence on what is happening with visa liberalization, what is happening with the workforce. Then we move to the most promising sector right now, which is the sector of, we have grouped three sectors: the ICT, professional services, and BPOs. And these three sectors together, they made up of 1.6 billion last year, and for this coming year we foresee that they will close with 1.9 billion. And during last year, their export in services together was around 480 million. And then energy has seen a decrease, but this is common because the energy consumption for last year and this year is lower, and it's a good thing. And the other industries we foresee to be around 3 billion. So in total, we will have a 7% increase in all industries. Okay, so based on the studies that we have done over the last 3 months, these are the 3 challenges that most of the businesses are facing. The number one being talent. And based on our data that we have analyzed around key industries, is that they have 24% average turnover rate for employees, while wholesale has up to 60% turnover rate in employees. The second one is technology adoption. Based on the study that we have done with the manufacturing industry and also trade, they are still at the early stage of technology adoption. And the third one is supply chain disruption that is being made due to regional political stability or broader conflicts in Ukraine and Middle East. The opportunities for the talent is that companies can invest more on capacity building of the staff, learning new skills and reskilling and upskilling, but also introducing data into their culture and enforcing the use of data into their decision-making process. Okay, so now we have a snapshot of the wholesale and retail industry. This is the largest industry. Last year they closed with 9.3 billion, but we forecast, as I mentioned earlier, with 11 billion euros. One of the key challenges is supply chain, and the other one is talent, because in this industry, 60% is the turnover rate. And that's a lot of headache for HR people. For the forecast, as I mentioned, it's 11 billion for the next year. They have a compound annual growth rate of 30% with around 20,000 companies operating in this industry and with around 80,000 employees. And they have one of the highest revenue per employee with 120K. The manufacturing industry, they have, as I mentioned earlier, they had a compound annual growth rate of 15%, but during this year we foresee that they will have a 2 points to 3 points decrease, mainly due to the labor shortages for the qualified labor. And the services industry, ICT, BPO, and professional services, 1.6 billion last year, 1.8. They have the highest increase in revenue for the first quarter, but also based on our forecast. They employ around almost 40,000 people, and they have the highest average salary among all the industries. Again, talent is also here a challenge. 44% based on our study, or less than 6 months with the company, and around 12%, which is not a big number as we have been expecting it, have left Kosovo since 2018, and 60% of that went to Germany. Okay, as I mentioned, we forecast that during this year we will have around 600 million export in services from these sectors. That's an increase of 20-25% from last year, which was 480 million. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Let's move straight across to Tony Balatic. Tell us about Panvita.
Well,
tell us about whatever you want. But
well, actually, Panvita is a food company, one of the leading in Slovenia, and I've been working in the food industry and retail industry for the last 25 years. That's why throughout the history, I became a big believer in the data and connecting data to the decision-making process. And today I wanted to use this opportunity to share with you my views on really using the data into decision-making process, because I do believe this is one of the key things in the, let's say, management development. But let me start first with the history. So at the beginning of my career, I was actually the opposite of using the hard data. So I started my career in communication. You know, communication is connected with vision, mission, values, branding, and so on, not really connected to the hard data. But when I was 25 years old, I became marketing director of Petrol. Petrol was the biggest company in Slovenia, retail company. And I was basically 20 years younger as the youngest manager there. And in order to cope with them into the discussions, you know, you have to have the authority. And in order to get the authority, you basically have three sources. So either you have the power, either, you know, you have the charisma, which I didn't have at that time. And the third one is the facts, the knowledge. So as kind of a 25 years old manager, I really had to invest a lot of time in order to build the knowledge and, you know, build the processes in order to persuade the older managers with the charisma and the power to change their behavior. And throughout the years, I succeeded in that, and some learnings I got from that journey I actually want to share with you. So what are, for me, the 5 key learnings, how to basically implement the data into the decision-making process. So it all starts with the people, of course. And it starts with the knowledge, with the know-how. I do think that we have the problem here in the region because our education is mostly based on ex cathedra, so kind of an old Austro-Hungarian empire style of education, where you are educated in a way that you certainly know specific subjects, but you do not have the knowledge how to connect them. And in the business, I think it's very much important how to connect all the functions, how to connect the data from the market to the P&Ls, P&Ls to the balance sheet, really understand the impact of the consumer innovation, like we saw before, investment in the innovation, the impact on the P&L and so on. And this is something you actually learn outside. I've learned that basically on the executive courses on the business schools in France, the United States, and so on. And these are things, it's, you know, it starts really with the people and the knowledge. And since you have such a high share of young people, I do think that you have to invest in them, into the training, into the education. Second, I think it's about the system and the IT. Everybody is speaking about the software, the IT solutions, and so on. But the problem is that in the companies, you basically invest in the IT sporadically. So whatever you need, you buy. And then there is a problem of interconnecting all those systems. I just had a discussion with one company a couple of days ago, a retailer. It has basically 120 IT solutions in the company which are not interconnected. So in order to really have efficient use of data, you have to have kind of a vision and a strategy for the IT and the systems. It's really, really, really important. And most of the companies actually forget about that. So really spend sometimes some money, some investment, also discussing the strategy and the right vision for the next 10 years in order to be able to have the right support with the data. The third thing is, are the processes. So you have to have kind of a processes, the management processes which include the data. So that, let's say, the simple cycle which all the functions, all the people, all the managers have to follow has to be, you know, it always starts with the analysis, go to the strategy, go to the quantification of the goals, go to the implementation, and what is the most important thing, it ends with evaluation and the KPIs. A lot of the time, companies forget about really quantifying the processes and really defining KPIs in order to be able to compare the processes among each other. The fourth thing is the user friendliness. In order to really create the culture, and I will use that word later on, again, you have to have systems which are user-friendly. So most of the companies basically have departments which create lots of reports. hundreds of reports with lots of data. But at the end of the day, most of the reports are not read and most of the data are not used. Why? Because they are produced by somebody else, not by the users themselves. So that's why you have to create the systems which are actually used by users themselves. That will involve them, that will create commitment, that will create empowerment of the data, which I think is really, really, really crucial. And as I said at the beginning, it starts with the people and it ends with the people. It ends with the culture. Here in Balkan, I think we tend to be less structured, more emotional. We have so-called Gazda culture. You know Gazda, it's kind of a common word in our region. It's hard to translate actually Gazda, but I think most of the people know what Gazda is. It's the owner, but it's more than the owner. So it's somewhere between the owner and the god. Yeah. And this is okay because companies need strong leader, but strong leader actually can't create a culture which is not open enough. So in order to really use the data and enable your colleagues to become really super efficient, you have to enable them, empower them. You have to give them the power and the freedom to speak. Also freedom to make mistakes. I think it's really important that you create a culture which not only uses or supports the use of the data, but which actually supports the experimentation. I think experimentation is really necessary in the modern business culture. Plus, it's really important that you do not only share success stories, but also share the failures. This is not common in our region. This is not common in our culture, but this is truly, truly important to be able to have such an open culture that people are really comfortable enough to share all the experiences. Because for the companies, repeating the mistakes is actually the most expensive exercise. Also doing experiments on the market without really using the data before is also extremely expensive. So that's why those are my 5 takeaways, how to really create kind of companies or environment which support the use of the data. We are now trying to implement that with my colleagues at Via Fresh store. And I actually had the privilege to really get to know, let's say, your market, your country, your people, and I must say that I'm really totally enthusiastic about your country. I mean, I haven't seen such an entrepreneurial spirit and the energy for many, many years. We had that in Slovenia maybe 30 years ago, but we became kind of a complacent. You have such a powerful energy that I truly believe that you will be a superstar. So if you combine your energy with the knowledge and the data, you will really be the superstar of the Balkan. So thank you.
Thank you. You got quite an enthusiastic round of applause there. I wonder why. I can't figure that out at all. You obviously had something that was popular. Okay, we have time for a couple of questions. I am going to give a final opportunity to all of you to put a question to our panel. So if you have a question, refine it, prepare it, and I'll give you an opportunity to ask it in a second. But before that happens, I have a question of my own. Couple of quick questions. Let's try and be quick fire with our answers. The first one is about, I mean, you mentioned, Tony, the importance of integrating data into decision making. I love data. We use a lot of data where I work, but I have a sneaky suspicion that people, once you offer them the opportunity of using data, they can lean on it and give it a little bit more credibility than sometimes it deserves. So there is this question of data quality, garbage in, garbage out, as they used to say in computing. how do you, how close are we to having good, reliable data and knowing that we've got it? And what barriers are there that we could overcome to, in this region in particular, to make sure that the data we have available is of high quality? You first, Tony.
Yeah, I think when we speak about the macroeconomical data, statistical data, financial data, I think it's close to reality. It's not really, it's easy to interpret. We understand what's the meaning of it and so on. But the problem is the closer we come to the behavior, so the social part of the data, so how to interpret the behavior of the society or the individual, the harder it gets to really understand what a certain information actually means. I think in certain companies or in certain industries we do have too much data. So if you look at the retail, for example, in retail you basically don't have thousands of data, you don't have 10,000s of data, you have millions of data. So how do you cope with it? How do you get the useful information? And here I actually see really the big opportunity for AI. So I think now we are entering the period of AI, and with the help of the AI, I think we will be able to start to understand some behavioral aspects of the data we are getting from the market. I'm pretty sure that most of the data really haven't been used in the past. Every retailer spoke about the CRM for the last 30 years, but in the reality, it was really primitive.
Are you seeing AI working today in this area, or is this something where you see potential?
No, not yet, but I think we will see it, so that there are many attempts, there are many startups doing that, but I'm pretty sure that within 3 to 5 years, we will have completely new management tools which will cope with, that big size of the data.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll just be speaking to a laptop. I won't need either of you two here.
True.
Spend your thoughts, please, here.
Okay. Regarding the data integrity and data quality, whether it's a public source, credible source, whether it's World Bank or Ministry of Trade, it's always good to have a double check and just to see also the methodology and how they have collected these data, because also from the data that we are getting from open data from tax administration, we need to really work around because of entering now in some technicalities of NATSE code, the nomenclature that categorizes the industries based on the activity code the businesses are doing. And sometimes businesses from 2000 or during the recent years, they have not been so concrete and to go and register the activity of the actual work that they are doing. So, and when you get the data from the market, of course, that you need to validate whether this data is from this industry or not. Just one example, if we are talking about manufacturing of beverages, if you see a number of, let's say, that we have 180 million euros in revenue for the manufacturing beverages, that's wrong, because there is also one of the largest importers of beverages, which is Coca-Cola, and they have a revenue of around 80 million. So from 170 million, you will come down to around to 80 to 90 million. And so, yes, it's really important to pay attention to the data quality and organize the data and check for any anomalies, because we do this also for the data that is coming from the customs, and we validate those data also with other customs that we are getting in order to whatever we present to be credible data and to have the quality that when we serve that to the business decision or any decision maker from the private or public sector, they can rely on those.
Okay, and very briefly, Spend, do you see AI in your business as an opportunity or a threat?
Last year, one of the governmental officials said that we are opening all the data, we are opening, and do you see it as a threat? No, we see it as a huge opportunity, and also we have started to introduce AI into our platform. We are one of the few companies from the region that are part of the Microsoft for Startups, and we are leveraging on the infrastructure being provided from Microsoft. Also, we have the access to OpenAI, and so we are testing in a testing phase, training our data from Kosovo and also from the region. So in the next years to introduce AI as well. We are just maybe in 3 months we will be ready to have this chatbot in our platform, so you don't have to go through a lot of dashboards, but you will just ask the question that you need from the data and you will get it right away.
I did say I would give you an opportunity to ask a question, so if there are any questions in the audience, I'm not sure you count as audience, but we'll give you your opening this time. Just go ahead and ask.
No, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting to hear. It's not working. Do you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you very much for a very good introduction of your experience, and also Mr. Ahmeti bringing good statistics in his presentation, which is very valuable. But also a question to you, if you can support the ministry to gather faster, to come faster to data gathering, to develop the parameters for innovation, as the Agency of Statistics is right now too busy with census and we really cannot wait. So how could you come to a proposal to the ministry to develop faster the parameters for measuring innovation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It would be a privilege for us to set up a meeting and gather all the business requirements, and of course to cooperate with the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Thank you. So after the panel, we can have a quick talk. And
I think that is an extremely positive note on which to close our conference. I think we've just managed to do a deal. So, so excellent. And I think that's about half a point on GDP next year, so well done. Please join me in thanking our panelists, and then I'll officially close the conference. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, well, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I just want to make sure that we say thank you to the people who should be thanked at this point. I've had a fabulous day. I hope you have too, but it's been made all the easier. I mean, it's been made possible by the fact that this young country, still finding its feet, has done such a great job of hosting us, so I'm really pleased about that. But also I'd like to thank our sponsors today. We have IPCO, BPB, Banca per Business, we have Pro Credit Bank, Teleperformance, Titan, Sharsem, Caravaggio by Hirafa, and Data4X. Thank you to all of you. Thanks very much to Economist Impact, who've quietly behind the scenes gone about the business of making all of this work. Finally, of course, thanks to all of you for your attention, your focus, your questions, and I look forward to seeing you again next time we do this. Thank you.